Hi everyone, this is Yana Smakula and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a few cards to share showing how to do color layering with dies. I'm going to be using a few new stamp and die sets from Spellbinders from their Indie line collection. Now this collection is exclusive to independent retailers. In other words, you will be able to get these dies at places like Simon Says Stamp and alike, but you will not be able to buy these from Spellbinders online store or Michael's, Joann, or Hobby Lobby. So check your local or online retail store to see if they have this collection, and I will link to places where you'll be able to get these dies in the video description. Spellbinders sent me the entire collection and I thought I would give you a quick overview. If you don't want to see the overview, but you would just like to see the card making part of this video, please skip ahead a little bit. First up are the fruit salad dies. These are fun little parts and pieces to create little fruits for your projects. You get semicircles in various sizes, an insert to make a melon, and there's also a set of dies to make something like an orange or tangerine. And there's also a little strawberry in there. When you get these dies, make sure to save the packaging as you get a card idea on the back showing you how you can use these dies for your projects. Next is coffee time set, and here you have a die to die cut a coffee cup, a holder, some pieces to make a donut, and also a little heart. And again, there's a card idea on the back. Next, we have this cute little llama die and a llama blanket, or maybe that's a saddle. Who knows? I don't know. Anyhow, a super cute die to use for a card. Next up is the happy weather die set, and you have a cloud and a sun along with some raindrops. This one is one of my favorite sets, the potted cacti. I love all things cacti, and I'm looking forward to using these dies for my cards, maybe even a Christmas card with a cactus wrapped in Christmas lights. You have a few different kinds of cacti here, a pot, and also some blooms if you want to make a spring cactus card. The octopus is also a fun one. You just need to pair it with a clever sentiment, and you have yourself a quirky card. Next is the tropical pineapple, and you have several pieces to cut the body of the pineapple and the crown, as well as a die to die cut a hibiscus flower. Another set that is one of my favorites here is the out to sea, and you have a little sailboat, a crab, and a few other images. Here's another critter. This one is Happy Narwhal set for fun and whimsical cards. Now, if you are more into unicorns, here's one that's called Unicorns and Rainbows, and you get both in this set as well as the little diamond. Next, we have some stamp and die sets. There are a couple of sets like this, and they're all done in different fonts. The dies are done in different fonts, but the stamps are all done in the same font, and the size of these is the same, so they can be mixed and matched together. This one is Happy Expressions, and you get a happy die and also a shadow happy die, along with a bunch of messages that go along with the word happy. There are also sets for wishing, thanks, enjoy, love, hugs, hello, and friend. I've already been using some of those, and I'll share the cards that I made using them soon. I made them for a magazine publication, so I cannot share them just yet. Next, we have a bunch of layering sets, and the first one is this gorgeous, gorgeous butterfly. There are 3 separate layers and also a body of the butterfly, and this lets you cut each layer out of different paper to create one multicolor and also dimensional butterfly. These are pretty cool and some of my favorite sets from this collection. There's also a set to create tulips, a large palm tree, and this one is large enough to take center stage on an A2 card. And you also get a set with roses. There's 1 rose and 1 cluster of leaves. Here's another butterfly, and this one would be fun to use together with that other one that I already showed you. Here's another set. This is a foliage set with 2 kinds of leafy branches, and these can be used with some of those layering flowers to create floral arrangements. And finally, there's a set with a bunny or a rabbit, and there's actually 2 of them, one standing up and one sitting down, and this would be a fun set to use around Easter. And last but not least is a tree layering set. This is the largest set in this collection, I think, and this one looks like an oak tree or a maple tree to me. Oh, and there's one more die set in this collection. It's the fairy door die set. It's a cute one for whimsical cards. Like I mentioned, this video is about paper layering with dies. So I'm going to use a few of those layering die sets to create several colorful everyday cards. Now, there are a few ways that these dies can be used. First is to use them with colored cardstock, and here I'm going to die cut a rose out of various shades of blue cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. I happen to love those particular colors, and I'm using Sea Glass, Surf Blue, and Audrey Blue. And once I cut these out, you can see how they layer together to create one-dimensional rose. Now, this particular rose doesn't have a precise set way for the layers to layer. It's a more loose layering set, if you will, so you can move the layers around a little bit. Another way to use these layering dies is to die cut them out of white paper and color that paper using some sort of coloring medium. Now, the sky's the limit as to what you can use here. It can be something as simple as using your ink pad with a direct-to-paper technique, where you take the ink pad and just rub it onto the paper to get the most ink transfer. You can do ink blending. You can use your markers to color the paper. You can use your watercolors, your spray inks, daubers, plenty of options. I did not have the right shade of pink cardstock for my roses, so I die cut the rose layers out of white paper and used my ink pads to color the paper the way I like. By the way, notice that pretty magnet on my desk. This is a Spellbinders main attraction, and it's a very, very strong magnet that can be used to hold the dies as you're working. So it can hold the dies on your desk as you're making a project, and you can also use it to find the dies that you might have lost in all of the clutter on your desk. And we've all been there. We've all lost that one little itty bitty tiny die. We couldn't find it, and it was just frustrating. So this is a great tool to have if you like to do a lot of die cutting. I also die cut the leafy layers in the same way out of white paper, and the paper that I'm using here is Neenah Cellar White 80 pound. I decided to use ink blending to add color to my die cuts, and at first I used several colors of ink from Avery L. Those are pigment inks, and they blend beautifully. The first color is Pixie, and you can see how easily it goes onto the paper and how quickly I'm able to cover the entire die cut layer with this color. Next, I used the color Orchid for the medium layer, although later I changed this, and I'll show that in just a minute, as I just wasn't getting enough difference in color. You know, these looked too much alike to me, so I blended a different color on top of this one later. Finally, I used Raspberry for the top detail layer, and again, I changed this one later. Notice how this one I actually blended while it was still in the paper. I did not pop the die cut out of the negative piece as it was too delicate, and I didn't want to damage it as I was blending the ink on top of it. So next I used dye inks from Simon Says Stamp to blend the leaves, and I went with green apple, willow, and jelly bean. These just happen to be the colors that I like, but any kind of ink can be used for this. I'm using dye ink now, and I was using pigment ink before, so just use what you have on hand. Another way to use these dies is with patterned paper. I'm not going to show you this, but you can see beautiful examples of these images die cut with the help of patterned paper over on the Spellbinders blog. I'll link to those examples below for you to check them out. Here I decided I needed to use some other more vibrant colors for my flower layers. So I'm blending Hollyhock. This is a dye ink from Simon Says Stamp. So I'm blending this onto the medium layer to make it a bit more darker. And notice that I'm doing more of a pouncing motion and not so much blending. The pigment ink is still wet on that layer, and I don't really want to move it. I just want to build the color on top of it. So I'm just pouncing the ink over this die cut with my ink blending tool. And I also used a darker dull pink color for the third detail layer. And again, just to make it darker and more contrasting compared to the other two layers, I pounced the ink on top. I used glue and adhered those together to create my roses and leaves. This is deluxe adhesive from Tonic Studios, and I've been using this glue for pretty much anything lately. It dries clear and it holds everything together nicely. I decided to go with a very simple card layout to complete this project with the roses. I used one of the stamps from the Hugs Expressions stamp and die set, and I stamped a diagonal background that reads, "You give the best." And I'll later add the word hugs, so together it's going to read, "You give the best hugs." Now here's what this background looks like. I stamped it in stone dye ink from Simon Says Stamp. It's a nice color for some subtle background stamping. I'm going to foam mount the roses onto this background and will adhere the leaves in place using glue. I'm shaping them a little bit with my fingers and just going to tuck them here and there on this panel under the roses to finish my floral cluster. I also die cut hugs out of black cardstock, and here I have another hugs that I cut out of black sticky fun foam. This is a specialty product from Scrapbook Adhesives. It's thin fun foam with adhesive on both sides. It's thin enough for you to die cut in your die cutting machine, yet it is thick enough to add some dimension to your die cuts. Now, a thing to note, it's also super sticky, so you need to be careful when using it. I adhered my black die cut onto the foam die cut, and now I'm just placing it onto my roses diagonally, following the angle of those stamped messages in the background. To finish this card, I just added another simple stamped and kisses. So my sentiment actually says hugs and kisses, and I have that you give the best sort of hugs in the background. And I also coated the word hugs with some shimmer using my Tonic Studios Aqua Shimmer pen. I made a few more cards using these layering dies. Here I'm die cutting some butterflies out of yellow cardstock and also some gold glitter paper. And you can totally mix specialty papers into these layers to make them pop. I die cut all butterfly layers out of 3 colors of yellow cardstock and also gold glitter paper, and this gave me enough layers to make 3 different butterflies for my cards. I also kept the negative die cuts for some inlay die cutting for future projects. I didn't want to toss these as they look like they can be easily used for some future butterflies. Some of the butterfly layers I adhered completely, meaning I added glue to the entire layer. But with other butterflies, I added glue just to the body of the butterfly and let the layers or wings be a bit loose for some dimension. Here's a closer look at the butterfly projects that I made, and you can see that dimension on the gift tag in the corner there. I also made another card using the tulip dies and Enjoy Expressions stamp and die set. Here, I once again used colored cardstock to add some color and dimension to my image. I stamped a black diagonal background for this card using a diagonal stripe background stamp from Simon Says Stamp. Next, I die cut a rectangle panel using a scored and pierced rectangles die set from Spellbinders. I used foam adhesive squares to foam mount the tulips in place. I wanted to pop them up on my card for some added dimension. And finally, I die cut Enjoy out of yellow cardstock and gold glitter paper. I layered the gold die cut under the yellow one for a nice offset look, and this added just a hint of glittery detail to this card. I also stamped Your Birthday sentiment and embellished this card using Nuvo drops in Morning Dew. Here's a closer look at this and other cards made using Spellbinders layering dies. I hope you enjoyed this card making idea and will give it a try using these or other dies in your stash. Be sure to visit my blog for a full list of supplies and also join the blog hub celebrating this release from Spellbinders. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you have any questions, as always, please leave them in the comments section below, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't yet done so. If you are a subscriber but are not receiving new video notifications, check the bell icon on the homepage of my channel to get notified every time there's a new video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!